This video is going to go over how to create content for your courses and how to add attachments to different areas and what the student sees from their end. So we're logged into the student management system. On the left hand side, we're just going to click the LMS option. In here, you're going to see the courses that you've got available, and this is exactly the same as the courses that you've got in here as far as your qualification goes. It's really important that if you were to delete it from here, you'll also be deleting it from there. So you should never be deleting any of these courses in here, especially if you've got students already enrolled in them. So we're going to choose one that doesn't have any enrollments, doesn't have any content, I should say. And we're going to choose that one. So we're going to see in here at the moment, when we look at the course units, it's completely empty. So let's have a look at, if we're logged in as a student, exactly what they see. So this is the student. Let's go back. So this is the student portal initially. And if they click the view course button, they come in here and there's not much that they can see. It's completely blank on the left-hand side. So let's see if we add a new unit. So we're going to add a new unit, and the first one's probably going to be an intro. So this is whatever title I'll put in here is what the student's going to see. So I'm going to type in intro, and I'm going to click update unit. So now if I go back to the student and I refresh this screen, you can see now they've got a heading on the left-hand side. But if I click this minus button, you can see there's nothing underneath that. And that's because all we've done at this stage is we've just created a heading. And we haven't actually added any content to it. So let's go back to the LMS. And what we're going to do first is we're going to actually create some content. So in order to do that, we're going to go to the assessment and content builder. I'm just going to open it up in another tab. It's a little bit easier to work like that. So I've got it here in another tab, and you can see in here we've got just the one, but we want to create a new one. So we're going to click the plus button here, and we're going to give it a title, and we're going to call this one content example. And we'll do that, and we'll call the same thing in the description. This is for your internal reference. The student doesn't see this. And then we're going to click the content only tab here. So this means that I'm not expecting any answers. It's just material that the student's going to see. So we're going to do that, and I'm going to click update. The next thing I'm going to do is add some actual content to it, because if I just leave it like this, and let's say I go back to my course builder, and I'm in here, I'm just going to give this a refresh. And then I'm going to choose add content. And from the drop down menu, you'll see that the one that we created in there, it's here. If there was more options, in order to be able to find just the content, I'll just be typing something like CON in here, and then it'll give me all the content examples in there. So all the content in there. So I'm going to click content example, and we're going to call it first content. Now this name here is what the student sees on their end. So let's have a look at what that looks like. So we click update content. And then if I go back to the student and I refresh the screen, you can see now underneath that heading, I've got first content. But if I was to click on it, nothing happens. That's because we haven't actually added any content yet. So we've just created a content bubble, but we haven't actually put any content in that bubble. So let's go back. Let's go back to our content builder here. So the first thing we want to do is add some actual content. So we're going to put in here intro text, and then we're going to click update. So if we've got it just like that, and then we log in as a student again, and we do a refresh, you can see that I've just got up here intro text. So the more text I add, obviously that's just going to fill up in there. But if I wanted to add more information, I don't want to have a forever scrolling one. So the best thing to do is you add a little bit of content up there, but then what you do is in here, click add content again, and this is going to be tab 2 content. And if I update that, and I go back in as a student again, you can see now that there's an extra tab up here. So it just makes the information a little bit more easy a little bit easier, I should say, for the student to be able to read. So if I click number 2, you can see there's a tab 2 content that I've put in there. So 1 and 2, that allows them to go through that information. You will notice that down here as well, underneath these tabs, that you've got a separate section under here, and that's completely blank. That information is, when I go to my course builder here, you see on the right hand side here, I've got overview. So if I click my first content, you can see that it's blank in here. So if I put here overview information, and I click the update content button, if I go back as a student, you can see now that I've got some information there. So it's up to you whether you want to use this or not. It just depends on the type of content that you're going to put up there. But usually this section here is if you've got a video or something up there, this is just some extra information for that video. If you've got an image up there, it makes it easier if the student can see. Now, also this blue line here indicates that for the student, they can go up and down on the content depending on what it is. So that gives them that flexibility there as well. Now, if I go back to the content builder, and then as you could imagine that if I wanted to add another one up here, I'm just clicking the add content again, and then that would be tab 3, click update, and I refresh. You can see now I've got 3 tabs with all different parts of information. So let's assume that we've given some information to the student in there, but on top of that information, we also want to add an attachment to it. So what we do there is, if this attachment's always part of this content, we can add it in here. So the way we do that is, if we click in here, we've got an add attachments button. And then we can either drag or drop, or if we just click in here, we can choose something. So we'll just choose this one. And then if you click the plus button here, you can see that now that's updated, and it gives you option to delete it. So if I go back to the students section now, and I refresh the page, and I go to the resources tab down here, you can see now that the student has an option to download that. So if I click download, that's going to download that file. So that can be an image or a Word document, whatever you want it to be. That's part of that content that you've created there. So if we go back to it now, we can say, okay, we're happy with the content, so the student's going to read through all this information, but the next thing that we want to do is we want to assess them on this information. So we're happy with that. We're going to leave that one alone. What we're going to do now is we're going to create an assessment. So once we've clicked the plus button there, we can see that we've now got some options in here. So for the assessment, we're going to just type in new assessment, and in here we'll just type in assessment example, and we're making sure that we've chosen the assessment option here, and then we click update. Now we're going to add a question. So we're going to say first question, and for this one we're going to expect an answer. We're going to give an option for the student to upload some documents into this answer, because I want to see what that looks like, and we want to give them the option that they can save their answer before they submit. So if I click update to that, and I go into my course builder, before I go into that, we'll have a look at the actual students section here, and you'll notice that nothing on the student's end has actually changed. So if I refresh this, you can see that even though we've created an assessment, it's not actually here. And that's because we've created the assessment, but we haven't actually attached it to the course yet. So if we go back to the course in here and we refresh, we go back into here. Now we just need to click the add content button, and then either type in assessment in here to filter out the searches, or just select it from the drop down. And then we're going to call this one assessment example. And just remember that whatever I put in here is going to be what the student sees from their end. So I will click the update button there. And now if I go back to the student section and I click refresh, you'll see that there's now a new option for them, which is the assessment example. And if I click on that, you can see that within the orange area, we've got first question, and then we've got a section in here where they can put in their answer. And we've got some section in here where they can upload documents if we expected it for this question, and save their progress. And then when they're finished, they've got obviously the submit assessment button right at the bottom. Now, if we go back to our content and we have a look at what's happening here, we could either go straight into the assessment with the questions, but generally with assessments, you're going to give a little bit of a description up the top, and it's completely up to you, of some instructions. So usually the first section, we're not actually expecting an answer, so we're going to click no answer expected, and we're not expecting them to obviously upload anything, and we're not going to give them an option to save that question. So if I click update that, and then I go back in here and I add a new question. This is my first question, and this would be intro for the assessment, or an overview. Okay, I'm clicking update there. So for this section here, I am expecting an answer. I don't want to have an upload, and I'm not going to give them the option to save their progress with this one. So if I click update, and I go into the students again, and I go refresh, you can see up here now, I've got the intro for the assessment overview, and then underneath that, I start getting questions. And see with this question, the option to upload is gone, and the save question, answer, and come back to it is also gone. So that's per question. So for example, if I wanted to go back in here, and if this starts getting a little bit messy to scroll down, you just click this button up here and it'll minimize all of them. So then you can see in separate sections. So I'm going to add a new question. So I've got a third one now. This is my new question. And maybe for this one, obviously I'm going to expect an answer. And I also want them to upload something for this one. And I'm going to give them the option to save their progress as they're going. So I'll click update to that. Come back in here, refresh. And if I click the assessment, we can see we've got our intro text. We've got our first question in here. We've got our second question. We've got where they put their answer. And with this one, we've got the option to drag and drop a file in there, or upload a file and save the progress. So it's completely up to you how you do this. It's quite flexible depending on your needs. Most of the time it's going to be quite strange to only have a save answer for one of the questions and not the other, but the flexibility is there depending on your requirements, and giving them the option to upload a document is there as well, depending on the type of question that you're asking up there. Now, if I go back into here, and we go to our course builder, you might notice that there's an option to add an attachment here as well. And that will also add an attachment to the student, but that will make it only for this section in here. So you only really use that if you're uploading a video or a picture, and then you need to add, additional attachments to that. But otherwise, most of the time you'll be adding it within the actual assessment or the content themselves. And if I wanted to add it to the assessment, it's exactly the same process I did before. I'm clicking in here, I'm clicking add attachment, and we'll choose this one. And you can see that option is now there. The attachment is there. And if I go back to where the student's logged in and I refresh that, and I go to the assessment example and I go down to resources, you can see that that's got its own attachment. And if I go to content, that's got a different attachment. And that's because we've uploaded it for different sections. I hope this video has been helpful. If you've got any questions or suggestions, please feel free to contact us. Thank you.